Good evening. It's been a day of tears and tributes for the thousands of men and women who lost their lives in the Battle of the Somme 100 years ago. In total, 130,000 British and Empire troops were killed, and their stories were heard today in a special service in France, attended by the Prime Minister and senior royals. Fred Dinage was also there and sends this report.
Poppies scattered in peacetime, honouring men who fell in battle. Britain and France stood side by side at the Somme 100 years ago, and today no sign of broken bonds and the fractured politics of modern Europe. Instead, politicians and the royal family were united at the Thiepval monument to the missing. Prince Charles, in speaking for a lost generation, turned to words written by a soldier of the Somme.
One need only look at the ground to know that the fighting here was very grim and to the death.
And at Lochnagar this morning, another memorable commemoration.
If you want to find the quartermaster, I know where he is. He is miles and miles behind the line.
We're all multi-ethnic in our school, and we have religions. So it's a sign of unity.
Eugenie Brooks from
Hello.
Surrey.
Correct, yes.
All these medals. Tell me about them.
Oh, well, yes, I'd love to. I wear them with pride today.
I know where they are. I know where they are.
This is Uncle Arthur's, great Uncle Arthur. He was 21 years old when he got killed in the Battle of the Somme, just on the other side of the ridge here. My mother, she can remember her granny, his mum, sitting there next to a picture of him, pointing at it and saying, "My poor lost boy."
They're hanging on the old barbed wire.
Louise Wickham, your great-great-uncle, Private Alfred Moxham from the Wiltshire Regiment, died here at Lochnagar. Do you know the story?
Yes, on the 2nd of July he was making his way across this crater to advance onto the German front line. His brother and his best friend were ahead of him on this side of the lip of the crater when the machine gun came across and killed his brother.
I've seen him.
William didn't want Alfred to be left just on the ground, and because he was in a state of shock, he buried him and put a cross on top of his grave. By the time they came back, and the Red Cross had removed all the bodies, but they didn't realise he was buried there, so they just left him.
There are many graveyards and cemeteries here, but presumably you wouldn't want your great-uncle moved from the crater here at Lochnagar.
No, I think what his brother done for him and burying him there makes it unique.
And he was the same age as you when he died?
Alfred was 33 when he died, so it's quite eerie and surreal, to be honest, to be in the steps that my uncle was 100 years ago at the same age I was now. The soldiers and my uncle and his brother gave their lives to give us what we've got today, so it means a lot to me, yeah. I'm very proud of what he's done.
Hanging on the old barbed wire.
Well, close to home, and a unique memorial was unveiled today at Cranleigh School in Surrey. The bronze and stone statue was designed by former student Nicholas Dimbleby. The glass panels are engraved with the names of 374 former pupils, all killed in battle.
When I was here, I remember there was some sort of war memorial in the library. One just walked past it. The idea was you couldn't walk past this without thinking, what on earth is that all about? So not a generic war memorial, but something for today and in the future.
And we'll return to the Somme later in the programme, but first, more of the day's other news. And 43 children's centres across Hampshire are to close. The controversial plans were approved this afternoon to save £8.5 million, but it's not gone down well with protesters, as Mel Bloor explains.
Well, campaigners have fought for months against the planned closures, and today they finally lost their battle. Hampshire County Council has decided to press ahead with its plans to close 43 children's centres, replacing them with 11 district hubs. It's a massive blow to all those who fought so hard to keep them open.
I'm incredibly disappointed in the decision. I feel that the needs of mothers in our community and communities around Hampshire has not been taken into consideration.
It is just devastating, and it's letting down our most vulnerable people.
Around 60% of staff will lose their jobs. Now, more than 2,000 people responded to a consultation on these plans earlier this year, with 68% opposing the cuts. And today, the council denied, ignoring their opinions.
We live in difficult financial times and we have to make savings. But in addition, the direction of travel we would have taken in any event, regardless of the savings. We need to modernise the service, make it more universal, and that's why I initiated the Family Support Service at my decision today.
The centres will be gradually phased out from later in the year. Mel Blore, ITV News, Winchester.
Southampton General Hospital is to become a specialist centre for brain tumour treatment. It will be one of 16 centres in the country to carry out specialist radiosurgery, which uses beams of radiation to target the tumour without damaging healthy tissue. Around 200 patients from across Hampshire, Wiltshire and West Sussex will benefit. Now, one of our most famous landmarks has been renamed. It used to be the Palace Pier, then it was rebranded Brighton Pier, but many people never accepted the change. So now the pier's new owners have bowed to public pressure. Well, almost, as Malcolm Shaw explains.
This is how many people have always seen one of the South Coast's most famous landmarks, the Palace Pier on Brighton's seafront. But the grand old lady entered the new millennium with a change of name. Now the owners have decided on a compromise, the Brighton Palace Pier.
We've always been very conscious of local feeling and the affection that the word palace holds for people. But we've also been very conscious of how powerful the Brighton connection is.
It was the Pier's previous owners, the Noble organisation, who chose to rebrand the Grade 2 listed structure back in the year 2000. But for the last 16 years, many people in the city have simply refused to accept the change of name. To them, this has always been the Palace Pier, and it always will be. The cause was taken up by the local newspaper, whose long campaign to turn back the clock has finally paid off.
There was a real sense of injustice among readers that this group could come in and just rename this 130-year-old icon.
So using the Brighton Palace Pier now would seem to me to be a perfectly good and amiable compromise, and I'm really pleased to see it happen.
Now a competition is being run to design a logo for the pier, which includes the new name. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Brighton.
Now back to the day's events marking 100 years since the Battle of the Somme. And one of the reasons the battle became so famous was because millions of people watched it unfold. This was thanks to the early newsreels and one photographer from Sussex. Simon Parkin has his story.
Hawthorne Ridge, just a few miles from Lochnagar. A British mine explodes, the signal for the soldiers of the Somme to go over the top. This incredible footage was taken by a portrait photographer called Geoffrey Malins.
He decided, as he wanted to do several times in his life, to respond to the call of adventure rather than the safe pattern. An agreement was reached to send 2 cameramen out to the Western Front, and Geoffrey Malins was one of the first 2 cameramen to go.
Carting around a heavy and unwieldy camera, Malins bore witness to the opening days of the battle.
When he came back from the war, he was changed, probably due for injury. He'd been gassed. And shell-shocked as well. My mother was always very proud of him. He was a showman. He would have been very proud to think of all the kind of commemorative events that were going on, and I think he would have loved all the attention.
Geoffrey Malins died in 1940. He made other films, but will always be known as the man who shot the Somme.
And there are many more incredible tributes on our website now. Let's get the weather details from Aidan McGivern.
From cold fronts to camping, driving through Europe, Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello, good evening. It's going to be a largely dry night with some clear spells about, but the odd shower perhaps affecting parts of Dorset at times, temperatures dropping to 9 degrees. And then as we start off the weekend, it's a bright start to the day on Saturday morning. Some decent sunshine first thing, particularly the further east you are. As we go through the morning, the cloud will tend to build from the west. A few showers will get going, and by the afternoon, a mixture of sunny spells and scattered heavy showers. The showers quite sharp in places, but by Sunday it's going to be a largely cloudy day with outbreaks of mostly light rain.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
And that is all from us for tonight. Enjoy your weekend. From us, good night.